Alex Padilla joins me now. Senator, I want to ask about that because you were the subject of one of these sort of initial claims by DHS that was later belied by the video, and we have now seen this habit in practice. Now, as a reporter, you get official statements from law enforcement sometimes, from government officials, and sometimes they're incomplete, sometimes they're sort of framed in a way that's a little bit deceptive. This, to me, feels like something else, but do you feel like there's a different category of lie and credibility problem with this DHS under this secretary and this administration?
Chris, thanks for having me back. Look, there's a whole different level of this kind of lying and this kind of cover-up, right? It's one thing for Donald Trump to lie about the strength of the economy. It's one thing for Donald Trump to lie about whether tariffs are costing the American people or not. But when they're lying about the victims of this over-aggressive, violent, cruel, indiscriminate immigration enforcement, mass deportation agenda that's costing the lives of American citizens, it is at a whole different level. And it's one of the reasons why, we're trying to hold Donald Trump accountable, trying to hold Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security accountable. We can't forget to call out Republicans in Congress. They are in the majority and have refused to even conduct oversight hearings to demand the truth, demand an independent investigation into these incidents. That's under normal circumstances what happens. There's a use of force, an officer-involved shooting. We say, whoa, let's find out what happened here in an effort to provide the truth, to provide answers, and to provide justice. Absent that, there's, under normal circumstances, a Department of Justice and a Civil Rights Division that will try to do that. We don't have that under this Trump administration, and sadly our Republican colleagues in Congress are failing at their oath of office and obligation to provide that oversight as well.
Yeah, it's a good point that is one of the big missing pictures here is congressional oversight. Yesterday, Democrats, Robert Garcia and Richard Blumenthal held that meeting where they heard from some folks, including Miramar Martinez, which is where we got that sound. We also heard from the woman who was pulled out of that car in Minneapolis and wrestled to the ground violently as she said she was going to a doctor's appointment. She was just driving through the area. We've now got two examples between what happened in Chicago, where they said they were going after Trender Aragua, and it looks like they got a tip that some people were squatting, and the shooting of another individual in Minneapolis, where it looks like once again they're lying. I mean, I guess what is the broader, there's an after action thing to do here, but what's the broader thing that has to happen to make it so this agency is A, not acting violently and recklessly, and B, not lying to everyone about what they're doing?
Right. Well, I think 99% of Americans know we can't take Donald Trump at his word. When they say they're changing their tone, when they say they're going to tone it down and calm the temperature in Minnesota, there's no change in what's happening on the ground. Holman can go on TV and say we're withdrawing 700 ICE agents from the state of Minnesota, but that leaves 2,300, and there's no change in tactics. There's no change in focus or emphasis in Minnesota or anywhere else across the country for that matter, because while Minneapolis is first and foremost in the news today, this activity is still happening in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Portland, in other places across the country. And here's another example of how this White House has blood on their hands, Chris. After the fatal shooting of Renee Good, right, when there should be normally an independent and credible investigation, that's not what the White House called for. They attacked her. They tried to attack her reputation and went as far as suggesting that all these federal agents on the ground have complete immunity. Their words, not mine. First of all, it's wrong. Second, it sends the opposite message that professional law enforcement should hear, because there is and should be accountability when there is a use of force. So sadly, tragically, it was not a shock that it happened again just 2.5 weeks later when Alex Preddy was shot in the back 10 times. Thank God for the video. But just imagine what's happening across the country when the cameras are not present. This administration has to be reined in, and that's what this spending bill negotiation is all about. No more money for DHS and ICE and CBP because they're out of control, literally killing U.S. citizens under the pretext that this president wants to put forward.
Your point about the tactics not changing, and also the fact that California was the first place that this was tried out, and in that case, it was both extra immigration DHS officers, but there was also the National Guard and the Marines at one point. I want to play you something the president said tonight in exchange with Tom Lamas over at NBC, in which he seemed to move seamlessly between what's happening in Minnesota and what's happening in Venezuela. And my colleague Jacob Soboroff, when he talked to Tim Walz in Minnesota, one of the disturbing things the governor there said was, in his phone conversation with Trump, Trump also moved seamlessly between Minnesota and Venezuela, as if these are sort of similar undertakings, right? An invasion of a foreign country and, an invasion of an American city. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I hate even talking about it. 2 people out of tens of thousands, okay? Mm-hmm. And you get bad publicity. Nobody talks about all of the murderers that were taken out of our country. They don't talk about...
but it was 2 Americans.
They don't talk about we have the smallest trucks. As an example, we've been very tough on the waters, and soon, pretty much overall. But if you look at the waters where we knock out boats...
So you can see he goes from Minnesota to the waters where we knock out boats. Tom Lamas a little confused, getting clarification there. That will air during the Super Bowl. But what does it say to you that that's the mindset of the guy who's ordering all this, that these two things are related in his mind?
Yeah, it speaks maybe to his intellectual or mental capacity at the moment. It can speak to the pretext and the lies that he will argue to justify what's clearly unlawful. Back to the point about immigration enforcement, you have a pretty universal agreement that if all they were doing was targeting those dangerous, violent criminals that they talk so much about, there would be no debate, Chris. There would be no disagreement. But the fact of the matter is what's happening is far from that. The vast majority of people that are being detained, that are being arrested, many even deported with or without due process, do not have criminal convictions. They're not the dangerous, violent criminals that they're talking about. It's terrorizing families and communities. It's hurting our economy. That's the truth.
Yeah. Senator Alex Padilla of California, thanks for your time tonight. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Chris.